Takes from the Deep End.
All right. Let's start. Who wants to go first? You know what? I normally pick. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a good one. All right. Takes from the deep end. We paid Waddle like a top 10 wide receiver in this league, only for him to play like a top 40 wide receiver. Was this a mistake or was it not?
I'm going to say it wasn't a mistake. For whatever reason, that the entire Dolphins offense was just completely out of sync last year. And I think part of that can be blamed on offensive line play. Surprise, surprise, Keith's talking about the offense. He finds a way to talk about the offensive line. So I think part of that can be blamed on the offensive line play. Part of that can be blamed on Tua's injury, on Tyreek Hill I think there was a mental block with Tyreek Hill last year. He wasn't himself. I think Waddle still is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. And if the Dolphins offense gets back to where I think it can go this season, should the Dolphins, again, fix their offensive line, I think the Dolphins are not going to look like fools for giving Jaylen Waddle that contract.
Yeah. What about you, Taylor? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with Keith. I do think it's to go to the offensive line. And I think McDaniel talked about this at the Combine. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But and I might be completely off base. Just from what I briefly saw, it kind of seemed like, we got to get better at the offensive line so we can have more longer sustained drives and not have to worry about a quicker paced offense. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's what it really comes down to for Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
I like it. What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough analysis for me here. This is his first season without 1,000 yards, but I remember multiple times this season us getting on the show afterwards and being like, Waddle, can you just catch the dang ball, right? For all the trouble we've given Tyreek for his mishaps this season on the field, I think Waddle had just as many. I mean, there's so many opportunities lost because he couldn't hold on to fairly simple route, fairly simple catches, out passes, things of that nature. So listen, he was the 6th overall pick. That's crazy to think about, considering he's been playing second wide receiver for 3 years now. I would love to see him back in the wide receiver 1 role to see if he could do that again, but I don't know if we'll see that this year.
I like it. All right, Taylor, you're up next, buddy. Takes from the deep end. We need to capitalize on Achane's recent success and trade him to a running back needy team. Then we need to lock this position up for the next 5 to 7 years by drafting Jeanty in the first round. He would be our Saquon and would take so much pressure off of Tua in this short passing game that can this thing go faster? That we can't seem to move away from. What are your thoughts?
From a talent perspective, I have no issues drafting Jeanty. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the context of the Dolphins roster, that's a completely different situation. When it comes to the Achane thing, though, no, man, I'm good. I'd rather have Achane get the ball and be a 1,500 scrimmage yard back / wide receiver. Even if you get somebody like a Jeanty to be your bell cow back, you should be able to find ways to get Achane the ball.
Yep.
And for him to get nearly about 1,000 yards. That's how talented he is. By 1,000 yards, I mean both rushing and receiving.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, the trade value for running backs is awful. I just don't think this would work out for us in a net perspective. Now, maybe this year you find teams that are panicking and looking at last year with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, and they all of a sudden they decide to overpay for a running back, but the chances of that just seem so slim.
Yeah.
As amazing of a talent as Jeanty is, I just don't. At 13, our needs are so much greater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, we got more years of him under a very cheap contract
of course.
Be such a superstar on this offense. So yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. What about you, Keith?
No.
Perfect.
No.
Point blank to the point. I love it, man. I love it. Awesome. All right. Anthony, you are up next, good sir. Let's see. Here it is. This is the one I wanted to give you. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Takes from the deep end. A franchise tag is for cornerstone players, not one-season wonders. Well, in this case, 2 or 3 season wonders. Sorry, Holland. Good luck testing free agency. Is there anyone on the current roster that should be tagged?
No. Mm-mm. No, I don't think there's any cornerstones up for grabs. I mean, if you're, who would you even look at?
Maybe JP. Maybe.
We can't stay healthy, right? Like, you're going to pay him a top.
I mean, he's the only one that I can think of.
It's the average of the top 10 players at the position. That's a lot of money for a defensive end. So we're going to pay JP all that money to potentially get hurt again. Listen, yeah. I've said this last week's show. I think it was last week's show. I am a proponent of getting rid of the franchise tag. I think it's an absurd system put in place for teams to handcuff players. I can't believe the NFLPA even allowed it ever to become a thing. That's a bad job by the union there. So to answer the question, no, I don't think anybody's franchisable. Certainly not Holland. I should have known that some fans were thinking about that.
Of course.
But no, I wouldn't franchise anybody. There's no, I mean, listen, you save that for somebody if like Tua's leaving or if Achane doesn't come to an agreement on something, right? Like, yeah, that's not for
Aaron Burr. No, I'm kidding. I'm just all right. So yes or no's from Taylor and from Keith. Taylor, go first.
Nah.
Keith?
Potentially chop in a couple of years.
Right. We're talking about this offseason.
Oh, this offseason? No, hell no.
Yep. All right, cool. That's what I thought. Yeah, that one was pretty easy for me too.
Let me interject here, Josh. I have one for the three of you.
Hold on, before you go. Just for all of the viewers, if you've come in late and this is your first time, these are not our takes. These are not my opinions that I'm asking these fellas to give me their takes on. Just as a recap, these are all hot takes and opinions and comments that we've gotten from our fans, from our viewers, from those that comment on our social media posts and stuff like that. I accumulate them, and this allows us to have this really fun segment called Takes from the Deep. So, Keith, I will defer to you for this one, sir.
All right. This was a take that I saw. Takes from the deep end. Dan Marino is not a top 10 quarterback all the time because he never won the big game, and it could be argued that he wilted in the biggest of games.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I'll start with you, Josh.
No, highly disagree on this take. That's one of the worst takes I've ever seen. Right. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. Like,
this is a Gen Z take all the way.
Yeah.
Right here, bro.
You know what this take reminds? This comes from somebody that, in my opinion, that probably never watched him play. Now, I was lucky enough to be able to see him play live. I mean, maybe that, maybe that ages me a little bit, but I think most of us, Taylor, I don't know if you were ever able to see him. I don't think so.
Nah.
But I mean, dude was incredible. Right. And for me, and this is something that I will die on till my dying days, right? I will fall on the sword. This is a team sport. Mm-hmm. You don't win the Super Bowl because you have a single good player. You win the Super Bowl because you have a good team. You have a good coaching staff. You have a good organization. That is what it takes to get to the Super Bowl. Not a good quarterback, not just a good quarterback. So to say, well, Dan Marino didn't win the Super Bowl. Well, Dan Marino doesn't win the Super Bowl. He is one of 53 that wins the Super Bowl. That does not take away from the fact that Dan Marino crushed it for his entire career.
Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know I'm in the same age group as you guys, but I didn't start watching football until I was 14 and then, really getting into it. So that was Dan Marino's last year. So I didn't get to see him in his prime, but I certainly went back and watched those videos. And this dude was throwing for 5,000 yards before there were even rules that made it so that the quarterback couldn't get hit or the wide receivers couldn't get hit. I mean, they were tackling wide receivers at the 5-yard line and he still threw for 5,000 yards. Like, imagine Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady trying to put up 5,000 yards back then. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in the game. The passing of that magnitude was not in the NFL yet. Dan Marino made it so, and he pretty much made it so that the game is the way it is today, the way the passing attack is today. 5,000 yards, I think it was 1980-something. Absolutely ridiculous. The league wasn't run that way. Nobody threw the ball that much. I mean, he's a legend. No way he's overrated. Nope.
All right. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I never had a chance to see Marino play. I've only heard stories about him as a player and specifically his final game, which was really unfortunate. to put it mildly. But and while you guys were talking about it, I was just thinking, like, I kept getting in my TikTok algorithm, like, highlights of, like, Mike Allstott and all these older players. And Dan Marino also came up in my algorithm there. And I got to tell you, I mean, he's probably top 5 all time. Like, the throws he is making, accuracy-wise, one of the best, if not the best, pure thrower of the ball. Now, granted, the Dolphins logo on the jacket here is a little bias here. There's a little bias, but...
Yeah, maybe we all should have prefaced that, but yes.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys who gave me that take. I gave me that take. That's my take.
Wow.
That's my take. And that's just how I feel about it.
Well, you're off the show, bud. You may as well
You don't
leave.
think he's a top 10 quarterback in the history of the? Who do you have above him? Do you have your list?
I had a list.
If you don't have your list, then that is a topic for new segment of next show.
Yes.
Yes.
We can certainly get into that, but guys like Tom Brady, guys like
That's one.
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. I will get you a list.
Aaron Rodgers.
No,
absolutely Aaron Rodgers.
No way.
No way.
Rodgers is one I can get over Favre.
Guys, this should be a segment.
And at the end of that segment, I'm probably going to be voted off the island here.
You're already voted.
Yeah, just write it down and leave the envelope.
And I expected there to be pushback on this, but that's truly how I feel. We can revisit this in a later show.
I don't know if I can stomach it.
Go ahead and give us some more takes here, Josh.
All right, so I'm gonna
that should have been the finale. By the way,
yeah.
No, I refuse to end the show on that.
Can't end the show on that. Blasphemy.
No. All right, so I'm gonna give this take to Anthony. All right, we're gonna start fresh, Keith.
Ruin the show.
Takes to the deep end with James Cook wanting roughly $15 million per year, and the Bills seemingly balking at that figure. Should Miami pull an Eagles move, a la Saquon Barkley, and sign him?
You might be surprised, but I'm gonna say yes. James Cook and Devon Achane on the same team, $15 million a year with this salary cap. Who gives a crap? I almost said it.
Yeah.
I caught myself.
Nice job.
Listen, I haven't been the guy to pitch paying running backs and bringing in big time running backs, but man, if you can take a guy like James Cook away from the Bills, pretty sure the Cook family's from Florida.
They are.
Bring him
from
home.
From Miami,
right?
Yeah.
Bring him home. Give him his money. Pair him with Achane. He is the power back that we've been kind of looking for, and he's an all-around back, really. Especially, him and Achane could be considered too similar, but that's okay. You can never have enough magic in the backfield. I think it would just to take a piece away from the Bills and add another piece to this offense. Oh man, maybe it's me dreaming and being super fandom right there and not actually thinking with my head, but I would love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking with something. All right, if that happens. Taylor, what's your take? Yay or nay?
I disagree heavily. I'm a massive fan of James Cook, but from everything I've heard from Bills fans, from not to fully plug it, but Locked On Scouting with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, who's a Bills fan, I can't stomach giving James Cook that much money to basically be kind of what Devon Achane is already. So you're just getting we just talked about redundancy at the wide receiver position.
I disagree there. He's not what Achane is. He could be the power back on this team. I think that Achane doesn't have the body to be.
It's not your money, Taylor. What do you care?
Well, when you put it that way, let's just sign everybody.
Keith, what about you, bud?
I'm good. I'm good on James Cook. I'd like
as in no or yes?
As in no. In no. I'd like a cheaper option. I'd like
is it the $15 million price tag or is it James Cook?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't think as much of James Cook as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I think he's a poor man's Dalvin Cook. He's a poor man's
he's the little brother.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's how I look at James Cook. I think with Devon Achane, with Jaylen Wright, and you add a power back, a big body power back, I think that's the sweet spot for the Dolphins.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge James Cook fan either, but we can't beat the Bills on the field, so maybe we can beat them off the field.
We tried that with Jordan Poyer last year.
Well, oof. Yeah, no, honestly, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, James Cook is just good, right? I mean, he's not great.
Mhm.
And I normally don't chime in on these, but 15 million is a little steep for James Cook. I mean, if we can get him in the 11 to 12, maybe, which won't happen, but I prefer to go younger, especially at a position where you need legs and wear and tear is a real thing. So, I mean, if we can get someone like Cam Scatabo, not that I've been plugging him for the last 17 months.
Never heard that name before. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So who wants the next one? I'm doing one for Taylor, one for Keith, and then we can call it a show. Who wants who wants the next one?
Keith, go ahead, man.
All right.
I'll
Let's
take it.
see. Oh, I want to give you a good one. All right. Here's
Give him another Dan Marino one.
Dan Marino is a top 10 quarterback. All right. Are you ready, Keith?
Yes, sir.
All right. Takes from the deep end. When Tony Sparano, rest his soul, was the head coach of this team, he used to go to the local car wash to sign guys to start the following week across all positions on the offensive line, and they would play well. Here we are in year 4 of the current regime, and we still can't seem to get this O-line figured out. What are your thoughts?
I think one thing that Tony Sparano did well that's underrated, an underrated aspect of his, his abilities as a coach is that he was an exceptional offensive line coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the problem, part of our issues with offensive line has been that we can't find a good coach. Now we brought in Butch Berry to be the offensive line coach last year, and he was best known for when he was fired from Denver, the players clapped. They literally clapped when they found out he was fired. That's what he's best known for. Prior to that, it was Chris Forrester. Prior to that, it was a dude who liked the nightlife in Miami a little bit too much. I think what the Dolphins need to do is they need to find themselves a Tony Sparano. They need to find themselves the offensive line coach from Philly. The name's escaping me. A Bill Callahan. They need to find themselves a guy who can, take players like Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg and turn them into actual good players rather than warm bodies to fill the offensive line.
That's fair. All right. I'm not going to go around the horn on this one. I'm going to jump right to Taylor because I want to try to find time for one group one. It's like agree or disagree one. All right. So Taylor, I'm going to go to you next here. Where the hell did it go? I lost it.
Well, in that
Oh,
case,
here it is. All right. Takes from the deep end. We need to cut all the noise and do what we need to in order to trade for Jaire Alexander. He is a certified dog, which would give us 2 at the cornerback position, Ramsey being the other one. Thoughts?
I wanted to cut you off as soon as you said Jaire Alexander. When you talk about noise, by the way, not trying to dog the player, but there's a lot of talk and a lot of controversy around Jaire Alexander. The first thing that popped in my head was when he made himself a captain, and the coaches were like, wait, why is Jaire out there? And it led to him getting suspended, I believe, the next week. So on the field, I think if memory serves me, he had a regression this past season. Either that or he was a little injured. He didn't have a fantastic season either way. But I'd stay away from that. I'd stay away from any massive contract, any massive trade that would trade away assets at the corner position. But
don't shoot the messenger. This isn't my take. All right. Sure? Well, I agree with you, Taylor. All right. So this is for all the marbles. Okay. For the group, takes from the deep end. Tua has already proven that he can take this team to the playoffs, something that most quarterbacks in Dolphins history failed to do. You fair weather fans need to get off his coconuts and let the man play. Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Yep.
But he needs to play. That's the key.
Yep.
But I agree. I'm probably the president of the Tua Tagovailoa fan club.
Mm.
I'm
Vice president.
Yeah, I'm his biggest supporter. I'm his biggest apologist. There are maybe 5 quarterbacks I would take above him.
Yeah, Marino's not one of them, apparently.
If
I was about to say he's not the president of the Marino fan club.
In today's NFL, there are maybe 5 quarterbacks I would take above him if all things are equal. If we're taking injuries out of it, if everybody's healthy and playing, there may be 5 quarterbacks to take above Tua. Yeah. Big fan of his. You put an offensive line in front of him, watch him cook, watch him carve up defenses. That's how I feel about it.
It gives me hope that our front office is finally talking about building the offensive line, because God only knows what he could do with a good one.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah. What about you, Taylor?
I feel like this take is lacking. Like, the context of Tua is the important part, because it's such an awkward situation. Like, he is clearly, talent-wise, the second best quarterback we've had, or probably the best quarterback we've had since Marino. I'll say that.
Since who? Sorry.
Marino.
Okay.
Wait, who?
Dan Marino.
I couldn't hear you. Who was that?
The little-known quarterback. But besides the point, that's talent-wise, he's the best quarterback we've had since then. But you can't just take the injuries out of it. Like, it's part of who Tua has been as a player. So the criticism he's gotten, I feel like years ago it was a lot worse a few years ago. It's still there, and you'll still get comments being like, Tua sucks, Dolphins need to move on from Tua. But I think at this point, the media and a lot of people do understand, like, no, he's a really good quarterback.
Fans don't.
It's just injury.
Every single video we have posted has gotten a Tua sucks comment.
I mean, genuinely.
Exactly. But if this was 3 years ago, I feel like they'd be 3 to 4 comments saying.
I guess it's getting better.
Every one comment, it'd be 3 to 4.
What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I don't fully agree with this take. So I'll have to say I disagree with the take that, I think it's somewhere between the fans saying that he just flat out sucks and the fans saying that he's our golden child who's going to lead us to the promised land. In the season that he had, he led the league in passing 2 years ago in 2023. The conversation that many Dolphins fans were having is that he didn't do anything against the teams that he needed to do, against the top tier teams, right? Against the Chiefs, he threw for under 200 yards. Against the Bills, he didn't show up. They lost 48-20 and then 21-14 when they needed it the most, right? The final 2 weeks of the season, in order to win the division, you get stomped by the Ravens and then you lose to the Bills, even though you still had a chance to win the division. So I know it's a team game, but the quarterback's the leader of that team, and this was his MVP season for his career, and he still couldn't beat the teams that he needed to beat, the playoff teams that you need to beat to get to that ultimate championship.
Yeah, we're not talking about the game he lost before that required us to win the last 2 to get in,
And then the Titans game, right?
Right.
Yeah.